Hi there, in this video you're going to learn about congruence and transformations. Your objectives for today are to identify congruency by using transformations and to identify transformations. First, we need to know how to identify congruency. Congruency just means that two figures are equal in measure. So like they might have equal side lengths, equal angle lengths. Okay, as long as they have equal measurements, then they are congruent. Two figures are congruent if the second can be obtained from the first by a series of rotations, reflections, and/or translations. Determine if the two figures are congruent by using transformations. So here we have a yellow triangle ABC, and we have a blue triangle XYZ. This right here is our pre-image, and this right here is our image. First, we need to see if these two are congruent by using transformations. So it looks like this is sort of flipped, right? So I'm going to reflect ABC over a vertical line. Let's start with doing that. Okay, so if I reflected ABC over a vertical line, I would have A prime, B prime, and C prime here. Okay, so this is what it would look like if I reflected this triangle over a vertical line. Now, I'm still not here yet. I need to get this triangle to go from here to here. So how would I get the yellow triangle? How would I get this triangle to go from here to here? Well, it looks like we would slide it or translate it, right? So triangle A prime, B prime, C prime can be translated so that all the sides and the angles would match triangle ZYX. See this yellow triangle? Just translate it right on. It'll fit right on top of the blue one. So the two triangles are congruent because a reflection followed by a translation will map triangle ABC onto triangle ZYX. Here's our next example. Determine if the two figures are congruent by using transformations. So we have this figure right here, this red figure, and this figure right here, it's green. Okay, they look pretty similar. I can notice one difference, but if you can't, we'll just try to we will just try to use different transformations until you can see it. So the first thing that I would do is I would probably flip this red image onto the green. So I would reflect it. So reflect the red figure over a vertical line. So here I'm reflecting this red figure over a vertical line. This is what the reflection would look like. Now, how do I get from here to here? Well, I would say translate it, but it looks as though even if the reflected figure is translated up and over, it will not match the green figure exactly. The two figures are therefore not congruent. And if you can't see it, okay, if you can't see it, this figure, right, has the two boxes right here. This figure has the two boxes right here. Therefore, they would not match up. These would not match up if you were to slide one on top of the other. So they are not congruent. Let's look at certain ways to tell if a translation, a reflection, or a rotation is involved with your transformations. Okay, if you're unsure of where to begin, let's look at these three things. So translation is when the length is the same and your orientation is the same. In other words, it doesn't get flipped around at all. It doesn't get flipped around. It doesn't get rotated around. So here's an example of that. Line segment AB is slid right onto A prime, B prime. Okay, literally they're just slid. The segments are facing the same way. A reflection, on the other hand, the length is the same, but the orientation is reversed. In other words, there's a mirror image. Okay, so this is literally flipped over the y-axis here in order to get this. Okay, so the segments are facing the opposite way here. Rotation, on the other hand, the length is the same, but the orientation is changed. Okay, if you notice, you have the same lengths, but this line literally rotates to this line. Okay, it's literally rotated around. Ms. Martinez created the logo shown. What transformations could she have used if the letter D in the pre-image and the letter P is the image? Are the two figures congruent? So here is a D for the pre-image and our P for the image. So let's start with the pre-image. Here's the letter D. Determine which transformation will change the orientation. Okay, notice D gets flipped to P. So let's be reminded which one has to do with orientation, a reflection or a rotation. So we can eliminate translation from this for now. So we start off with our letter, okay? Rotations or reflections change orientation, so you can rotate the D 180 degrees about point A. If you rotate it 180 degrees, around this point, you'll end up getting you'll end up getting your D kind of sort of like upside down and diagonal. Now if you just translate the new image up, so if we translate this P upward, okay, we end up getting this image right here. So Ms. Martinez could have used a rotation and a translation to create the logo. The letters are congruent because images produced by a rotation and translation have the same shape and size. Now, there are other ways that you probably could have gotten to this. One thing that kind of stands out to me is you could have reflected it one way. You could have reflected it over the x-axis and then reflected it again over the y-axis. If you were to have done two reflections, you still would have gotten to this point. So there are more than one ways to come up with this. As long as you come up with a correct way, then you're fine. Concluding thoughts. I just want to remind you about this. So translation is when the length and orientations are the same. Reflection, the length and orientation, or length is the same. Orientation is reversed, so it's flipped like a mirror image. And rotation, the length is the same and orientation is changed. All right. I hope you learned about congruence and transformations. Thank you for watching.